Breaking news this morning, it's official. Kyle Busch is staying at Richard Childress Racing for at least one more year. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Instant reaction this morning. Richard Childress Racing officially announced they have picked up Kyle Busch's option for the 2026 season. So next season, RCR is running it back. Kyle Busch in the 8, Austin Dillon in the 3. This comes less than 24 hours after Hendrick Motorsports announced a William Byron multi-year extension. So that's Byron, that's Busch, two drivers who I don't think anyone really thought were going anywhere, but those are two big names that are officially off the board as far as this year's silly season free agency is concerned. I already spent time yesterday talking about Kyle Busch's time at RCR, where he struggled, where there's still promise and potential. So this is going to be a fairly quick episode, just reacting to a few of the quotes to come out of today's press conference. Richard Childress says, "Kyle has been great to work with. I love a driver who don't like to lose. We've worked hard. We got some exciting things coming up." Kyle Busch said his time with RCR has been, quote, "fun but challenging." I think that's fair. It sure started fun. 3 wins in the first, 12, 13 races together, and 0 since then. That's where the challenging part, I suppose, comes into play. Kyle Busch on retirement or thinking about putting a date or timetable on it, quote, "No, not at all." So that's the interesting thing here. So RCR is picking up Kyle Busch's option that they had, a team option for 2026, but there's no extension here. This isn't both sides saying, all right, this is going great, smooth, love it here, let's extend long term. Like William Byron and Hendrick yesterday, that was I think a 3-4 year extension, 4-year extension on top of the current season. That's not what this is for Kyle Busch. This is very much in line with like what Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse agreed on last year. A 1-year deal, kind of almost like a prove it deal for both sides in some way. And we'll see this time next year if Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing are still happy with where they're at. From Kyle Busch's perspective, and this is what we talked about yesterday, I think staying with RCR for next season was probably the best option available. Now, I don't have the foresight to know exactly what cars, teams might be opened up this time next year, but as far as this current free agency cycle, there just weren't a lot of great options. I mean, RCR, for all their struggles, for all their faults, is still one of the better teams in the NASCAR Cup Series. That's a playoff contending team. It's not Gibbs, it's not Hendrick, it's not Penske, but Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske, they're full. They're good to go. I mean, I guess at Gibbs, Denny Hamlin's future is somewhat in question, but I think all signs indicate Denny Hamlin's going to stay in the number 11 car, especially if, some of their new sponsors like Progressive Insurance decide to renew. I think that would make that decision much, much easier, but Hendrick's not changing their lineup. Penske, I know everyone wants to point at Austin Cindric now that his dad's not with the team, but I think Cindric is safe for at least next season. And Gibbs, I mean, that's a young lineup outside of Denny, and Denny's still close to the top of his game. So there's no great option for Kyle Busch at any better team. Maybe there's an opening at Trackhouse if they don't get a deal done with Daniel Suarez. Maybe one of the Spire Chevys becomes available. But those, in my opinion, those are lateral moves. Kyle Busch is ahead of all of the Spire cars in points right now, and Trackhouse doesn't exactly look like an ascending team at this moment. I think that's a lateral move. So if you're Kyle Busch, I think this is a good deal. Stay with RCR for another season. Give it your best shot. Give it a go. And this time next year, Kyle will be more free, more flexible to explore what other opportunities are on the horizon. Now, what's working against Kyle Busch are a couple of things. His age, he's 40 years old now, which, I mean, Kevin Harvick was winning a bunch of races in his mid-40s. So was Mark Martin, obviously, whose shirt I'm wearing today. At 40 years old, you are still arguably in your prime as a NASCAR Cup Series driver. So the age isn't an immediate concern, but he will be 41 next season, and I think the bigger concern is Kyle Busch's salary. Because he's a future Hall of Famer, a 2-time champion with over 200 wins across all 3 NASCAR National Series, he's a little more expensive than, say, just say, for example, one of the 2311 seats became open at the end of next year. Okay, you might put Corey Heim in that seat instead of Kyle Busch because he's a lot cheaper. And while I don't think he's as good right now as Kyle Busch, he has an extremely high ceiling. He is the future. Same deal we talked about yesterday, like Trackhouse trying to find room for Connor Zilic. They believe in that kid. I think he'll be ready for a Cup Series opportunity in the next couple of years. I mean, do you take Kyle Busch as to bridge the gap? I don't know. You probably just get your young driver in that Cup seat as soon as you can so he can start getting reps, start getting familiar with the next gen car. And speaking of the next-gen car, that is the other thing working against Kyle Busch is the next-gen car does not suit his hang it out, drive it loose driving style. He's admitted that he's having a hard time getting a good feel for this car, this current platform. We talked yesterday about the lack of regular practice sessions. Kyle Busch is a feel it out, feel it in your butt, feel it in the seat, communicate with the crew chief, make adjustments the weekend of. That's Kyle Busch. That's where he's been so successful through the peak of his career. But since the pandemic, since NASCAR nixed so much practice, went from 2-3 hours a weekend of practice to 20 minutes at best, I think that has impacted Kyle Busch's ability to get a feel for this car and to really get the setup exactly where he wants it by race time on Sunday. So it's a number of factors. Not adjusting to the next-gen car, not adjusting to the lack of practice. RCR obviously isn't the team that Joe Gibbs Racing once was, so you shouldn't expect the same number of wins and deep playoff runs as you did before, but we'll see where they go. Richard Childress Racing is not a bad team. They're just kind of stuck in that second tier, and it's very hard when you're in that second tier to break through that ceiling and compete consistently with the Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske's, and teams that have a direct alliance with them. Like 2311 last year did break through that ceiling with Tyler Reddick at least, but I mean, they get all their data from Joe Gibbs Racing, and data is the currency right now in the NASCAR Cup Series. One other comment Kyle made in this press conference was about wanting to spend more time at the shop going forward, and I do think that's always been in some ways a detriment to Richard Childress Racing. So for those not super familiar with the greater Charlotte area, North Carolina geography, RCR is based up in Welcome, North Carolina, which is a distant, I don't even know if you could call it a suburb. It's a completely different town. It is pretty distant from the Charlotte and Concord and Mooresville hub where most NASCAR Cup Series teams reside. And while I'm not from North Carolina, I haven't spent a ton of time there, from what I understand, some have speculated that makes it harder for them to retain the most talented people. Some people don't want to commute an hour and a half up the road, or potentially relocate their family further north out into the distant suburbs. They were able to bring in some key personnel this offseason, like Richard Boswell, who was a crew chief at Stewart-Haas Racing. That team shuts down. He relocates and now is crew chief for Austin Dillon with RCR. Similar deal with Johnny Klossmeyer, comes from Stewart-Haas Racing, is now the technical director at RCR. And then the other change they made this offseason, I believe, was removing the interim title from Keith Rodden's role as a competition director. So those are some significant gets, but we spent more time talking about Rodney Childers, where he ended up. We spent more time talking about Matt McCall. Both Childers and McCall wound up at Spire, at least for a period of time. So, I mean, you could argue RCR missed on a couple of the top technical free agents this offseason. Still got some good, solid guys, but, they mentioned, hey, we got big things coming. Is that more hirings? Are those more leadership roles being filled? Is that new technology? What are the new things that Richard Childress seems to be teasing there? But that's the big news. I'll keep it short and sweet because yesterday I talked more in depth about Kyle Busch's driving style and past, present, future, what this means for RCR more broadly. This means Jesse Love, Austin Hill, likely not going full-time Cup racing for at least another season, unless they sign with a completely different team. I don't know. That could happen. Austin Hill is 31 years old. I mean, he's been very successful the past couple of years in Xfinity, but at 31, it's shoot, kind of got to make or break. Time to go to the Cup Series or not, if you can. I don't know what his funding situation looks like. Maybe he's comfortable winning races in Xfinity. I guess we'll have to see. I'm very high on Jesse Love, a lot younger. I think still needs some time to develop before going full-time Cup, but he's dipped his toe into the Cup Series this year and he's done okay. He spun out that one time, which kind of messed up the finish of that one race. But yeah, RCR's statement today says that it'll be Busch and Dillon in their 2 Cup Series cars again next season. So that's That's my initial reaction. Let me know down below how you feel about Kyle Busch staying with RCR for another year. It's just a 1-year extension. It's not even an extension. This isn't like Hendrick inking William Byron for 4 more years saying, this is our guy, we don't want to let him go. No, this is just RCR picking up the option they already had. That's all this is. They did not agree to a broader extension, keeping the door open for changes by 2027. That's what this sounds like to me. Let me know your reaction down in the comments below. That's it. Short, sweet Saturday, instant reaction to some early NASCAR free agency news. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you again after the Coca-Cola 600 Sunday night.